there will be no babies. You know, God has made the world in which you have to plant seeds for you to reap what you sow. So the altar in the churches, they are like a fertile land. So the altars that has got the God's presence in there has a good fertile land. So as you go and plant your seed in that altar, and as you go to church every day and you pray, you water that seed. And that seed will grow and bear fruits, and then you eat its fruits. That is when you start to receive in your life. But there are other churches as well. In the beginning, maybe God had his presence in that church. But as time goes on, maybe the people that were put in charge of that altar was being dishonest to it. And God does not like anything dishonest to do with his name. So he leaves that altar. So that altar becomes a dry land. So if you're there for 10 years and nothing has changed in your life, that altar is a dry land. You need to try a different one. Because if God is present in that fertile land, in that altar, anything that you plant, within 3 months, it has to grow for you to eat its fruit. Because God is not a God that would not respond to what you ask him. He's a God. He said, ask and it shall be given unto you. He wants you to basically ask him things. He's not a God of refusal. No. There are some of us that, actually asked him for things and he's done it. But it's up to you to break down the boundaries and the walls in front of you to go and receive it. There are things that has already been laid down in what you asked him to do. He's not a God that you ask him something and he wouldn't do. Never. He's not like that. He will do it. But then sometimes when he does it, the enemies would be blocking your way. They will be blocking you in reaching what God has for you. That is when prayer comes in. That is when you have to speak his words into the atmosphere. So when the enemies attack you with their words to stop you getting to where God wants you to be, you also speak his words. His words, I told you last week, his words, the prayers, it's like fire that's being released into the atmosphere. So as you pray to God, as you release his words into the atmosphere, you break down those walls. You break down the words of the enemies that's blocking your way in receiving. So as you go forward, you pray, you continue to pray to break down the walls. As you go forward, you're breaking down walls. You break down until you get to the point where God has laid your foundation. He said to Abraham, I will show you a faraway land that is filled with milk and honey. So your land that is filled with milk and honey is waiting for you, but it's up to you to find it. As Abraham, when, it was not that easy to find it, he had to fight, he battled, they would be walking on the road and then they will have, people that will battle with them. But then, with Abraham, it was the army and stuff. But then spiritually, it's the enemies. He was battling the enemies to get to his land that God has laid for him. So that is the same way you also have to battle your way through. Fight, you put everything on the side. If you've actually meant to receive, I know there's some of you out there that know in you that you're somebody great. You know in you that, you are, you're supposed to be something. You're supposed to be this billionaire. You're supposed to receive something. You know what I mean? And you haven't because of something. You know in you that I'm not just an ordinary person. I'm a person that's full of greatness. But why aren't I receiving? You need to pray more so you can break down the walls that has been placed in front of you. So you can actually go ahead and receive what God has laid out for you to receive. God is not a God of, that when you ask him of things, I told you, he would do. He said, I would do exceedingly, abundantly, and above all for you. As I speak, about my journey in receiving from him. So whilst he basically taught me in how to pray, and whilst he took me to the journey in also how to receive. When my music, I told you that I started to, he told me it's about time for you to do what I've asked you to do, because he's actually prepared me now. You know, he's installed in me the things that needed to be there for me to go ahead and do what he asked me to do. But one thing that I focused on was in doing what God wanted me to do, not what I wanted him to do. That is one thing that I wanted to also, talk about today. Like some of us out there would always go and kneel down and ask. And all we do is ask and ask and ask. But have you actually sat down to think, Father, what do you want me to do for you? What do you want me to do for you, Lord? What can I do for you? Because sometimes when you've asked for something and it's not being done, it's not as if God cannot hear you. But sometimes he wants you to feel the same way that he feels when he asks you of things and you do not respond and you do not do it. I met a woman that, was talking to a group of friends, and she was really angry with God. And she was like, I'm so upset with God. I was pregnant and I went into a covenant with him. And, he still did not let my pregnancy stay. I still lost the pregnancy. So I'm really upset with him. I even sent money to this pastor in Africa, to go to the mountain for me. And, and that didn't, even though I was able to do all that, I still did not receive my baby. My baby did not hold. I still had a miscarriage, as always. So whilst that woman was talking, God said to me, ask her a question. Ask her, what has she actually done for me? So I stood up and I asked her, what have you done for God? You cannot just want something and out of the blue, you just ask him, God, do this for me. I'm going into a covenant with you. I've gone to pay money to a pastor, so it needs to happen. No, that is the wrong way to ask God anything. And he's not a God that you can just go and then just be rude and ask him in that sort of way. There is a process. So I said, whatever God has asked you to do, you have not done even one. I said, you still drink, you still smoke, you tell a lie, you don't even go to church. But then as soon as you needed him to do something for you, that one day that you said a prayer, that one time, God needs to answer you automatically and do it for you. No, it does not work like that. You also have to do what he needs and expects of you to do. You need to answer him. You need to go and search, read the Bible and search in what? Say, Father, what do you need me to do for you? Before I received, I did things for him. I sat there and I told Father, what do I do for you to receive? What do I do? So I started, I became born again. I started step by step. I became born again. I went to baptize. I said I had to join the choir. I was actually concentrating in doing what he wanted of me. So if you are out there and you need fruit of the womb, ask yourself, Father, what do you need me to do for you? So after you've done things that he actually expects of you, now when you're ready to ask him, you say, Father, I did this for you, and I did that for you. Where is mine? This is what I need from you. So you also need to answer me. He is not a God of ignorance. He is not a God that does not feel what we feel. He's a God of sympathy. He loves us. But we need to show him that great respect as well. You have to understand, as you have knelt down to pray, there is so many other people out there that are praying at the same time that you're praying. So if God actually answers you, be grateful. If you actually see the change in your life, be grateful. Because as you pick a grain of sand from the sea, if you go to the seaside and then you fetch, you put some of the sea sand in your hand, there is so many other people more than that. So just imagine zillions of people, uncountable, that are praying to God at the same time as you. So when you're actually kneeling down to ask him of things, be prepared. Do what he's asked you to do. Make sure that your heart and soul is clean. Your heart and soul is given. You've actually done things for him. So you basically do not have to just go forward and say, Father, I've spoken to this pastor, so it needs to happen. Listen, God wants you yourself to open your mouth to speak to him. The way in which the pastor received what he has is by him calling on God himself. So sometimes pastors are there to give us directions and to teach us in how to receive. Not when you pick up a phone and say, Pastor, pray for me. And then the pastor prays for you. You place the phone down and go to bed and think, so far as the pastor has actually prayed for me, everything is done. God has solved it. It doesn't work like that. You need to let God see that you really want what you're asking of. Let him see let him see that is why we do fasting. That is why we go into hunger for him. Just to do something for him. Just for him to know how serious we are to receive. And how serious we need this, whatever we are asking him of. So my brothers and sisters, please, as you want to receive what you need, as you want your fruit of the womb, as you want your job, whatever you need him to do for you, please do something for him first. So when he's actually doing yours, he will do it and complete it. And it will last you for generations, because God said, I give you life and I give it to you more abundantly. When God does anything for us, it lasts for generations to come. I say to people, when the devil gives you money, it would not last you to your children. It would not even get to, last you for your lifetime. But when God gives you money, or God does something in your life, it will last your children's children's children. When you actually do things with God's money, it lasts for generations. It's a blessing to your entire family. But with the devil's money, it stays with you. It does not even go to your children. It does not do anything. The house that you use the devil's money in buying, you end up selling to pay something. You end up selling, the devil will not give you anything for free. He will collect it in a rude way. He will collect it in another way. And that is the truth. But that's why God wants to always remind us, I give you life and I give it to you abundantly. When I give you something, I give it to you. For your children's children's children to enjoy that blessing. That is when he gives us life. That is the meaning of giving it to us abundantly. Generations. Long beyond wherever. It will stay. And every single person in your family, after you've died, it will be there at that reminder of what God gave you. So I just want you guys to know out there that, you need to start doing things for God so that you can also receive. So as I'm, saying my stories, I'm just like, getting you through the process in which I received. And this is certain things that I did to receive and to sit here today in front of you, speaking to you. It was a battle, but then this is a battle that I won with God's help, with his blessings, with his protection, with his fight, and as I basically called on him and as I did things for him to receive, when it was time for him to start opening doors for me, I actually had a dream. Last week I was telling you guys about the dream that I had when God came into my dream, and I was sitting on a staircase, And it was a staircase that goes up into the clouds. And it was white staircase. And I was one of them that was sitting on that staircase. And I was sitting, and everybody was literally sitting this way. And